All right, let's get started. So, hey everyone, this is Dallas JC here. A few of us are back from a successful Zeta World Tour in Asia, and we're hitting the ground running with a jam-packed Zeta Radio today. This is a special edition focused on Bitcoin. It aligns with the ongoing Zeta BTC hackathon, which ends in 17 days, October 6th. And very excited to have a slate of special guests today who are, in fact, judging the Bitcoin hackathon. These are some of the brightest minds in the space pushing this Bitcoin frontier forward. So you're going to hear from 7 speakers in the session today. We got Trevor, CEO of Ninja Alerts, general partner at Bitcoin Frontier Fund, Zach Mayer, co-founder of Ord.io, Brian Laughlin, co-founder of Ordinals Bot and Satoshiables, Ronak Pagzad, CEO of Wrap.com, Bowen Wang, Chief Shilling Officer, Smarty Labs, and then 2 others whom I had the pleasure of meeting in Singapore last week, Nicole Zhang, investor at Lingfeng Capital, and Vincent New, partner at Sky9 Capital. We also got a few ZetaChain contributors on the panel. Panru is the lead protocol engineering. Brandon leads product at ZetaChain. Dennis, developer experience at ZetaChain. We're going to really spend the bulk of today's Zeta Radio talking about the emerging space of Bitcoin interoperability. I'll share some brief Zeta news updates at the top of the call, and then we're going to do a 10-minute Q&A with our head of protocol engineering, Pan Ru, to understand what's possible with Bitcoin on Zeta Chain. And then bulk of today's session, we'll hear from the external Bitcoin hackathon judges whom I introduced earlier. So jumping in, just quick TLDR on Zeta News updates. Really 2 big things to call out. One is that a few Zeta contributors are getting back from a huge roadshow, including Stanford Blockchain Week, Korea Blockchain Week, Token 2049. So we've been all over the world, and you probably have seen on social, we've participated in more than 15 panel and keynote talks on ZetaChain. We sponsored a bunch of parties, including probably the most popular after party in Korea, and then the same in Singapore. We threw a party with Sky9 on this call, and the lines were out the door, and it was a pretty good time. Point is to say the level of brand awareness for ZetaChain is at an all-time high. People absolutely know about our community across the world, and we're getting to invited to speak at a bunch of different events and comment on articles from prestigious outlets like the Cointelegraph piece that went out last week on Interop. So all good news. Dennis, I know you've been traveling around with us to these conferences. Any quick thoughts to share from your experience?
Hey, yeah, these 2 weeks were very busy, and I was at our stand for 2 days straight, and I got a chance to talk with a bunch of people, and a lot of them know about ZetaChain, right? Maybe most of them actually, and some of them are actually members of the community, which was very cool to see them live. I've noticed that there are a lot of, not a lot, but there are other interop projects where uh, in Singapore, right, at Token 2049, which I think is actually a very good thing, because this means that like this interoperability, just generally the topic of interoperability is very popular and in demand, right? So it kind of validates the path that we're taking. And yeah, the most common feedback um, kind of request is supporting more chains. So people are very eager to contribute even for Zeta Chain to support the chains that they're passionate about. And I think that this aspect of Zeta Chain, that it kind of connects everything, is very strong.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, and I see White Sox, our Korean ambassador, in the audience. We met him for the first time in person, and I remember there was a point where we were talking to 3 Zeta app developers at the same time, one from Korea, one from India, one from Serbia. Everybody sharing the cross-chain apps they're building, and that was like the story of the week. We kept meeting Zeta devs and community members everywhere and at our booth at Token 2049. So a lot of momentum. The second Zeta update, this was hot off the press from last week. So Zeta Labs now includes the growing Zeta app ecosystem. And with this, we disabled the swap app so we can better position all of the great builders preparing for mainnet to launch their products, to put them more in the forefront. And the context is that we built the swap app in the first place really just to showcase what was possible to build on Zeta Chain and battle test the network. And so Swap did everything it was supposed to, 15 million cross-chain transactions to date. And so very positive development in Zeta Chain's progress leading up to the launch. And you can check out the content and the announcements in terms of Zeta points. While you can no longer earn them via swapping, you can still invite friends to Zeta Labs and get 5,000 Zeta points per referral. Brandon, on the product side, any additional thoughts to share on Zeta Labs development from your end?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what you just went through, a lot of the focus to date around Zeta Chain has been on labs and swapping. And while that has brought a lot of awareness and very valuable testing for the team and ecosystem and Zeta Chain itself, we want to shift the focus to the apps that are building actually useful things on Zeta Chain. So you can go there right now and check out a wide variety of different apps. Some are kind of featured right now and will feature more in the future. And this is sort of a nod to our focus moving forward, which will come in a number of different activations, even external to Zeta Labs, but just ways to teach the community and bring more awareness from the people who have already shown interest in Zeta Labs swapping to the rest of the apps in the ecosystem. So yeah, this is a super exciting product shift for us moving forward. And now we kind of get to have fun, not just, in product the Zeta Chain core contributor team is building, but also what the entire ecosystem is building.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, so look out for big updates on ecosystem testing soon over the next week or two. I'll give it back to you, Brandon, and we can start Q&A with Ponru on Bitcoin interoperability on Zeta Chain.
Cool. Yeah. So as Jonathan mentioned earlier, we do have an ongoing Bitcoin hackathon, and I believe it's ending in 17 days on October 6th. So definitely check that out, and we'll talk about it a good amount during this call. But I guess we can move to just an intro on how Zeta Chain and Bitcoin interoperability kind of works, and then we'll move on to sort of Q&A with our judges to talk through some higher level use cases and ways to think about how Bitcoin can be used in the future, and particularly with the introduction of Omnichain smart contracts, what that can bring to the table as well. So to start, I wanted to introduce Brewmaster Panru, the head of protocol at ZetaChain. Could you maybe introduce yourself and explain what is currently possible with Bitcoin and kind of what ZetaChain brings to the table?
Yeah, sure. By the way, can you hear me? Is audio coming through okay?
Yep,
Yes.
loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Brandon, and I'm glad to be here. So I'm Panru, also known as Brewmaster. I'm leading the protocol team here at the ZetaChain. So essentially, we develop the developed chain software. So I'm going to give a high-level introduction to ZetaChain, especially the Omnichain smart contract concept, and with particular emphasis on Bitcoin interoperability. So I'll start with ZetaChain interoperability. So one of our unique approach towards interoperability is Omnichain smart contract. So an easy way to grasp this idea is it is a smart contract which lives on ZetaChain itself. So it's however the unique capability of this Omnichain smart contract is that it can manage foreign native assets such as Bitcoin. So imagine that if you have written any smart contract in Solidity and deployed on Ethereum, then you can imagine a similar smart contract. It's actually the same virtual machine EVM, and you can write your smart contract in Solidity as well. And you can say something like, okay, if this happens, then I'm going to send some Bitcoin to this Bitcoin address. Okay, so I'm going to emphasize the Bitcoin address there because the smart contract, which lives on ZetaChain, is able to manipulate native foreign assets as if these assets actually live on ZetaChain itself. So the programming model is essentially the same as a single chain Ethereum compatible smart contract platform. The difference is that now we have a notion of native foreign assets. And the interface of that native foreign assets is via something called ERC20, as the name suggests, is compatible with ERC20. So this is very important because this means that we can manipulate native Bitcoins as any standard ERC20 tokens. And all the applications that has been battle tested on Ethereum, such as Uniswap, V2, V3, V4, and Curve, and Aave, and those NFT auctions, those kind of smart contracts can be directly. You don't even have to modify them and port them to ZetaChain, and it gains the ability to manipulate native Bitcoins in addition to other native assets on the blockchains. So that is the high-level idea of Omnichain smart contracts. And what is currently possible with Bitcoin is that right now on the Atom3 testnet, which is our latest version of software that we're developing. So right now, the Omnichain smart contract only handles fungible tokens. So that includes Bitcoin, of course, and also native Ether on Ethereum, and a bunch of other popular fungible assets like stable coins on Ethereum, BTC, and so on. And so there is the current status of the ZetaChain. And you can imagine that with the searchability of Omnichain smart contract, a lot of opportunities are opened up by this relatively easy to understand concept that a smart contract can manipulate native foreign assets. As to what is possible in the future, So this is something that we're still trying to architect and design, and perhaps we can get some input from the community, and that will help shape the road forward. But our current thinking is that we're going to extend ability to handle fungible tokens to, of course, non-fungible tokens. And in order to do that, we need a standardized behavior of non-fungible tokens. As we know, non-fungible tokens can be used in a variety of different ways, and so we need a relatively standard and uniform sort of common denominator behavior of NFTs. And the current thinking is that Bitcoin ordinals might be the proper one because it's the one of the simplest and robust and secure NFT standard. So one possible way to approach extending the ability of omnichain smart contracts to manage not only fungible token but also non-fungible token is to model after the Bitcoin ordinal. And again, that will enable some very interesting applications. I am sure people can be very creative about that, but on top of my head, I can imagine, you can have a decentralized and automatic smart contract that handles the auction of, let's say, Bitcoin ordinals. As far as I understand, that is not very easy to do anywhere else. And I'm sure there are other interesting applications that connects Bitcoin with other chains via ZetaChain itself.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you, Panru. And yeah, just so to reiterate, omnichain smart contracts let you essentially orchestrate native assets as if they were on one chain from many chains. And this is right now built particularly for fungible tokens, so things like Bitcoin or USDC on Ethereum and that sort of thing. And one of the next steps for this omnichain smart contract platform is to expand into non-fungible tokens such as ordinals. So just digging in, Panru, a little bit, what could you maybe explain a little of what exists today in an effort to support this sort of functionality with Bitcoin, and kind of how omnichain smart contracts are different from solutions such as wrapping or just having Bitcoin derivatives on other chains?
Yeah, I think the most popular current way to integrate Bitcoin into other, basically to connect Bitcoin with other either real world or other virtual platform is via wrapping. So essentially, you issue a wrapped version of Bitcoin on some other blockchains, and then treat the wrapped asset as if it is the native Bitcoins. And there are a lot of different ways of doing the wrapping. You can have a trusted third party who does that, just like the issuers of stablecoins. Or you could even have some kind of automatic process to wrap things around. As far as I can see, there is not a great way to integrate Bitcoin into the bigger ecosystem in a decentralized and permissionless way. There are some pioneers such as Thorchain, and there are some recent successful projects such as Layer Zero and Axila that relies on passing around messages that primarily connects blockchains with smart contract capability, because it relies on a decentralized set of smart contracts to perform the function of your dApp. So essentially, your application state and logic are scattered around different blockchains. Obviously, that wouldn't work for Bitcoin. So the support for Bitcoin in a permissionless and a decentralized way is pretty limited. And of course, you can always go to centralized exchanges or centralized NFT marketplace. So that's this, as far as I understand, the current support of Bitcoin in the broader ecosystem. So what we are trying to provide is something I think quite unique. So we are a blockchain, proof of stake one. So it has its own security characteristics. The goal is to be decentralized and permissionless and without a single point of failure. So it's with support of native Bitcoins. And we think supporting native Bitcoins is pretty important because that avoids the trust that you somehow have to place on the wrapper of the Bitcoin.
Got it. Thank you, Panru. And yeah, so there are a number of solutions introducing Bitcoin to the broader DeFi ecosystem, such as wrapping. But with Omnichain smart contracts, developers have a bit more control and are able to settle and kind of write to the Bitcoin network directly from their applications, which is something that has kind of been initially pioneered by a project such as like Thorchain or some sidechain approaches. But with this, it kind of expands what you can build with Bitcoin in mind rather than focusing on smart contract chains. So thank you, Panru. Now we can maybe shift gears. And for those of you listening, if you want to post questions about any of this, please do, and we'll try to get to them as we can. But for the rest of this call, I want to shift gears to our wonderful judges that Jonathan introduced and do a little Q&A with a focus on, again, Bitcoin and where we see the Bitcoin ecosystem going. So I guess to start, and maybe we can circle to everybody on the judging speaking panel, but to start, how do you view the state of Bitcoin and Bitcoin apps today, and where do you see it going in the near and maybe longer term future? So maybe we can start with you, Trevor.
Sure. Great to be here, everybody. I am Trevor. I'm the managing partner of the Bitcoin Frontier Fund. We love to invest in early stage Bitcoin startups. So I'm keen to see what comes out of this hackathon. Excited by the developments on Zeta. I'm also a big Omnichain believer, so looking forward to learning as much as you guys. And yeah, I think obviously Bitcoin is, I think, a little bit behind the rest of the space. And I don't necessarily think that's a problem. I think that's actually an opportunity. I think actually most problems are actually opportunities anyway. But I think that, you know, the Bitcoin community has always been, had something going really well for it, right? I mean, it's still the largest blockchain by market cap, and you know, the first one to reach a significant adoption. And but a lot of the Web3 use cases, I think, really only reach maturity, or you know, in my opinion, like what really convinced me of their like production level readiness was, you know, the use cases seen in like 2021 with MetaMask, with OpenSea, with Uniswap. Although Uniswap, you know, is a little bit older than that. But I think right now Bitcoin is catching up, and Bitcoin is serving an important role that I think is also different than other blockchains. I think that in the future, as we move towards like a multi-chain type of future, that like blockchains will tend to specialize. You know, we mentioned the blockchain trilemma. Blockchains can't do every single thing. Like they have to pick what they're going to be good at. Of course, Bitcoin has chosen decentralization, durability, you know, security over, you know, speed, scalability, functionality, et cetera. And I think that's a worthy trade-off. And I think that the way that Bitcoin kind of catches up to these newer use cases that we've only seen the past few years, and also kind of creates new ones, is by the builders participating in programs like this. And so I think that Bitcoin is a massive opportunity in terms of we now have these new use cases that have been proven on Ethereum and other blockchains that we can build in ways that make sense on Bitcoin. And there's not a lot of competition if you're a builder today building on Bitcoin, but there is a new community of people who are interested in supporting development, interested in trying new things. I think the Ordinals community being a big part of that. There's a renewed interest in Bitcoin. And so I think if you're here now and you're participating in this program, I think you're in a great place, and it's a golden opportunity to be a part of what's happening on Bitcoin today.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, definitely a lot of what you said resonated with me, and I'm sure other speakers. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about how you view Bitcoin today and where you see it going?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so for me, when I first kind of started getting into crypto, I kind of started off with Ethereum just because I was a developer and that was kind of where you built stuff. So I made a few projects there, and then once Ordinal started coming around, you kind of saw a big new kind of like invigoration of the developer community on Ordinals, and a lot of just Web3 people in general starting to play around with Bitcoin, because like obviously everyone knows about Bitcoin. That's probably the first crypto most people have heard of, but it just seemed kind of like boring and stale for me for a while. So yeah, I mean, I think it's super exciting, everything that's been going on over the past about like a bit over 6 months, I guess. And I think that like there's no question that this is going to kind of continue, and it's only going to, as more of the base level infrastructure is built and it becomes easier and easier to build on Bitcoin, I don't see this stopping. And I think that yeah, Bitcoin has a bright future in terms of developers and things being built.
Yeah, definitely. I think the past 6 months have been super exciting, and it's sort of been kind of like what you both have said. We have this base layer that has been proven over the past decade or more, and we're kind of adding flavor to that layer now that we have this renewed interest in building more interesting applications and kind of have more tooling to do so. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, so hey everybody, my name is Brian. I go by Bruffstar on the interwebs. I'm the co-founder of Ordinalsbot, and it's great to be here today. And I really agree with both Trevor and Zach in terms of there's a huge amount of excitement in the space that's been built up over the last 8 months. A stark contrast to even just last year. You know, I think Bitcoin there was a lot of kind of just conversations happening on Bitcoin, not a lot of stuff being done, and Ordinals has just had this huge explosion of creativity and development in the space, and it's made it exciting to work to basically build on Bitcoin again, you know. And we've seen a ton of developers and kind of products coming back into the space and like really being happy to finally come back to a chain where they worked on the early days and then had to leave because, you know, they wanted to go and build more rich content, rich stuff, like, you know, work with smart contracts, etc. So a lot of them left and went to Ethereum, and now they're coming back and building on Bitcoin. So I think it's a really exciting time, and a huge opportunity, like Trevor said. You know, the Bitcoin it has something different than the rest of the chains in my view. Everybody knows Bitcoin. First of all, it has a certain gravitas to it, and then also the security aspect to it is just uncomparable anywhere else. So that's unwavering. That'll never change with Bitcoin. And then, but this is its biggest strength. So it's just to say, like, okay, we've got that amazing feature of Bitcoin. What can we build on top of it and around it? And over the last 8 months or so, the Ordinals ecosystem and all of our tools and products that we've been building there have really stretched the boundaries of it. There's been some amazing things done on L1 without smart contracts, which is, you know, mind-blowing. You know, you've been able to build up marketplaces and all these cool things, but I think at a certain point it does hit a limit, right? There's got to be a certain need for that extra layer of functionality. and the stuff that ZetaChain brings to the table and other such like L2s and side chains and things is got to be needed, and I think really great for Bitcoin in general, because obviously the more stuff that people are building around and on top of Bitcoin, the stronger the network will be. So yeah, just really excited to be here, and I'm like Trevor, really excited to learn more about ZetaChain as well and what you guys are doing with it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so Bowen, I guess same question for you, and I guess a slightly different perspective, as Bowen is, chief shilling officer, maybe more an investor side of things. So how do you kind of look at Bitcoin with the broader DeFi Web3 ecosystem, and where do you see it going?
Yeah. I knew like the co-founder of ZetaChain back in the days when I was building a decentralized exchange on top of 0x, when the co-founder of ZetaChain is the advisor for 0x protocol. And back in the days in 2018, we were having this difficulty to actually bridge Bitcoin asset as a trading pair to Ethereum network. And that's when we started the WBTC DAO with Kyber co-founder, DYDX co-founder, which is we use BitGo as a custodian and issue ERC20 version of wrapped Bitcoins on Ethereum. And back in the days, it's only it starts from 0, and right now it's 4 billion circulating supply on ERC20. And ZetaChain's the main goal is to become like the ultimate cross-chain, omni-chain bridge, universal messaging protocol for both trading and other ecosystem. So like when I first heard the omni-chain is gonna be integrated with Bitcoin natively, I think that's gonna be definitely generates a lot of like TVLs for ZetaChain, and as everyone knows, like Bitcoin's trading volume is definitely like 40% for the spot trading volumes, and also it counts to about like 60% of open interest on the perpetual swap open interest total volume as well. So as an investor of ZetaChain, I definitely see the future of this kind of like cross-chain swapping, cross-chain perpetual exchanging DEXs going to thrive in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think just the act of bringing Bitcoin into things like the DEXs that kind of exist today is a pretty strong need in itself. And if ZetaChain can help bring that forward, it can definitely bring a lot of opportunity for exchanges, traders, and I guess a lot of other use cases. So want to dig a little deeper into use cases. So next question, and I'll circle back to all of you for this one as well. Is like, what gaps do you see in the Bitcoin space? And you already kind of touched on a few, both opportunities and gaps. So, we have alternatives to pure wrapped Bitcoin solutions, ordinals, you have trading. Is there anything you see missing in terms of tooling or apps that you believe should exist, but no one's quite tackling yet? And maybe we can circle back to you, Trevor.
Yeah, could you come back to me 1 second? I'm just jumping in an Uber real quick.
Sure, no worries. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no question that like the Bitcoin block times and stuff, there are things that we want to do that we can't really do just because like waiting 10 minutes to do anything is kind of annoying. So I think sidechains like certainly have a future in making this all possible. And yeah, I'm like really excited to learn more about it. I'm not super familiar with this stuff yet. I'm just, I've only been in Bitcoin really for around 6 months. So yeah, I'm just kind of here to learn right now. Sorry if that's not super helpful.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah,
Yeah, how about you, Brian?
sure. Yeah, I can jump
Go
in.
ahead.
I think we're really early in this ordinals kind of ecosystem right now. You know, it's only 8 months old, and um, I think a lot of the builders in the space are definitely on the same level of like it's not perfect yet. You know, we've basically just threw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what stuck. It's what stuck, and a lot of stuff stuck, but it's not as efficient as it can be. You know, there's a lot of room for improvement. So I think that you know, a little bit more time for it to mature and get, you know, maybe more decentralized indexers and storing the stuff more efficiently on chain. All these kind of things would be great, and I think that comes with just more developers coming into the space, and then essentially like solidifying that kind of ground level would be really cool for then building on top of it these side chains and different things. So yeah, just I think more developers in the space would be really cool, and working on the ORD protocol itself, and but not just that, like how can we make it as efficient as possible. I mean, for example, the stuff that we're putting on chain is all human readable. There's no need for that to be human readable. It can be you know, optimized. You know, doing multiple transaction inscriptions per transaction, etc. That's coming soon, and that'll help a lot with, you know, on chain congestion. But yeah, I think just working on the ground level and optimizing and adapting over time is great. But I also want to preface it to say that, you know, we didn't spend 5 years talking about something and debating about it and do it. Like, we just did it. A lot of this was just, let's just do it and see. And BRC20, for example, came out of a simple you know, experiment, and then that blew up. But that's also by far not the best way to do things. But again, it's just iteration and improving over time. So.
Definitely. Yeah, a ton of very early developments, so a lot of opportunity to kind of build that ecosystem out, even just core infrastructure. Yeah, Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys, but I'm back now, and so yeah, like the use cases I'm interested in, I think for Omnichain, and of course I'm still exploring what's possible. So sorry, the truck going by. So you know, I'm interested in kind of like for Omnichain, like any tech that I think can make it easier to move assets like back and forth across different chains. I think especially with, you know, looking at ordinals, we have F-scriptions now on Ethereum. I would suppose that you could do F-scriptions on any EVM supported chain. So, you know, this kind of idea of like using Omnichain, I think the big promise is that, you know, people always say, like the cliche is that like a user on the internet doesn't know what HTTP is, or they don't know what FTP is, or they don't know like what the protocol is, and that in the long term, blockchain will move towards that sort of structure. And so I would love to see people who can build any type of applications that can like sort of like move the experience into a direction where it removes the complexity and allows assets to exist very easily across the blockchain universe. And I think that, you know, starting with something like ordinals would be very interesting, and maybe you could link up with, say, ordinals and F-scriptions across different EVM chains or something I would like to see.
Yeah, super cool ideas. And yeah, just echoing, removing a lot of the complexity that exists right now seems to be kind of the core of the problem. If we can make it such that you could get your wallet, your NFTs trade without really having to think about what chains you're operating on, or not having to worry about that, at least, I think that improves experience, you know, like tenfold if designers and builders can actually flesh that out. What about you, Bowen? Are there any like specific gaps you see? I know you mentioned DEXs and wrapped solutions, but any other interesting Bitcoin related applications you're looking into?
Well, funny things actually. I was actually having a call with Ethena founders early these days. Actually, this algo stablecoin use STETH yield and also ETH short perpetual, which ultimately combining, you can give like 10 to 12% of annual interest rate for the interest-bearing stable coins. And basically their problem is that they have to, the total addressable market for them is 10% of the Ethereum perpetual short open interest, which is right now is only $4 to $5 billion per day. And if they can actually include Bitcoin open interest perpetual short, which is 16 billion, which is 4 to 5 times actually larger than ETH perpetual open interest, and that's gonna be so like the interest bearing algo stable coin using Bitcoin as a collateral, which is actually a better version of UST. If we are going all the way back to Terra's collapse, rather than using Terra as stable to issue UST, we're using Bitcoin, basically kind of like MakerDAO using Ethereum as collateral to issue DAI. So that's gonna be also, I would say, like one use case scenario. I was talking to the ZetaChain teams as well. Potentially, that's gonna be every layer one needs its native stable coin, whether it's USDT on Tron or like DAI on ETH. So I think stable coin is definitely a must need for ZetaChain.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of attempts at algo stablecoins in the past, and I echo what you just said about how, yeah, something that could be a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin or basket of assets could be pretty game-changing in the space. And as you said, there's a ton of liquidity and opportunity there, definitely. Yeah, I'll also circle to you, Dennis, and Panru, if you guys have any thoughts or ideas for gaps that need to be filled in the Bitcoin space, whether it be tooling or products. So maybe we can start with you, Dennis.
Yeah, so from developer experience point of view, I just hope that the platform we're building is going to make it easier, much easier to build effectively dApps on Bitcoin, right? So you can think of this as an opportunity to kind of write Solidity contracts that take Bitcoin as input and can do pretty much everything you can do on an EVM plus more, because you can also connect with other chains, right? So it's like supercharged smart contracts with Bitcoin as input. So yeah, I think that will bring a lot of experimentation into this area, and yeah, just happy to be part of it and contribute.
Thanks, Dennis. And what about you, Panru?
Yeah, I don't have like particular gap testing applications in my mind, but as a general observation, I think the Bitcoin has been the first blockchain that really bootstrapped the whole space, and it's still the largest by market cap, and is pretty unique in its simplicity, robustness, and long history of existence. So I think it's gonna be one of the blockchains that will live the longest if it ever dies. But the participation of Bitcoin in the bigger ecosystem is pretty limited. I feel like there's not a whole lot you can do with Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. That's what I mean. The ordinals definitely change that, but still it has more potential. So by bringing Bitcoin into the bigger ecosystem in a decentralized and permissionless way, I think is one of the bridging step that is kind of needed.
Yeah, thank you, Panru. And Brian, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. And so I really need to look into this to understand more about the technical side of this. But from what I am understanding, there's no wrapped functionality here or anything, and you're somehow able to literally, interact with L1 Bitcoin in a decentralized way. I'm just wondering if with that same mechanic, does it have some sort of like coin control there, where it's actually also like aware of ordinals then, because obviously ordinals are inscribed on individual sats, and the way it works is Bitcoin at the end of the day. But part of this is that you need to be really careful about transferring these satoshis around, right? Because they can get lost in gas fees and things. And I'm just wondering how far are you guys in terms of that? Is it going to be, is this future music, or is it kind of maybe something that's actually already available? Just essentially, how ordinal aware will the ZetaChain be as well as Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I can give maybe a high level and let Ponder take away on some of the details. But so right now, Omnichain smart contracts are focused on fungible tokens. So supporting, you can send Bitcoin and call contracts on ZetaChain, and then contracts on ZetaChain can orchestrate Bitcoin or other assets, whether it's in a Uniswap pool or whatever that use case is. Ordinals are a place of like current and future research. So what ZetaChain can do is it can read and write from and to Bitcoin directly. So whether that is fungible tokens, which is implemented now, or just the native Bitcoin asset, or reading and writing inscriptions or ordinals, that functionality is sort of a general capability of the network, and the network can do this read and write in a decentralized way. But yeah, maybe Ponder, you want to talk a little more about how you might see ordinals being integrated?
Yeah, definitely. So ordinals is very interesting. So right now, we do not support ordinals. That's because the way we select, as I've mentioned, the way we select the input and produce and build a transaction does not respect the ordinals. So, but that's not a fundamental blocker, and it is definitely on our roadmap to support ordinals. We just have to when we try to make a transaction, we have to order the input and output in a certain way that respect the ordinal the sets. So we don't want to transfer the sets to inadvertently to somebody that we don't. So it's a very interesting development, and it's relatively new. And I think as far as I can see right now, there is definitely no blockers in us to support it. We just need to figure out a standardized way to handle not only ordinals but also other non-fungible tokens. So that's magic.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. That's really cool. I mean, that if you can get smart contracts interacting directly with ordinals, then you've got to open up so many more possibilities for the space. I think that's really, really cool, and it is definitely a brain twister to get your head around the fact that individual satoshis are now making Bitcoin essentially non-fungible. It's hard to get your head around. And another cool aspect to this whole ecosystem as well is the concept of rare satoshis that really has blown up and got a lot of people excited in the ordinals ecosystem. And that's essentially take away the inscription, the actual satoshi itself as a collectible item, and people are attributing value to these individual satoshis just based on certain attributes. So, for example, if it's the first satoshi mined in a block, it's called an uncommon, and these are selling anywhere from $500 to $1,000, and that's just mind blowing because it's the smallest integer of Bitcoin. It's one satoshi, and it's selling for $800 without any inscription on it. So, all of these cool use cases are definitely interesting on its own, but layer a smart contract on top of that, and then you've suddenly got DeFi and staking and all these really cool things with really nice ordinals integration. That's a really nice future I'd like to see.
Definitely. Awesome. So, Bowen, I saw you had your speaker on. Did you have something to say? Okay, maybe not. All right. I guess just circling back to you, Trevor or Zach, if you guys had any last remarks before we move on.
Yeah, I would just say like have fun. I mean, this is very exciting event that you guys are putting on, and I think hackathons. The whole point is to try the craziest thing you can think of because it's low risk and you get to have fun and meet other cool people. And we just encourage people to don't overthink things and focus on learning. And yeah, hit me up if you have any cool ideas. We'd love to hear from what you're doing and see you in the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything Trevor said. I'd say look at some of the cool experiments other people have been doing and see if there's anything you want to build on or modify, because I think that's a great place to start. And yeah, have fun.
Yeah, definitely. Have fun is one of the core goals of these hackathons we're doing, and I think it helps to be really open and just kind of see where ideation and experimentation gets you, as it's not doesn't have to be too serious at this point. It's just a place to explore. So yeah, just echoing what a lot of your suggestions or ideas were around Bitcoin. So DEXs incorporating native Bitcoin, stable coins that could use Bitcoin as collateral, and then moving on to more like NFT based solutions or experiments such as NFT marketplaces or identity protocols or games that let users pay with Bitcoin or use Bitcoin in some way. And really, that's just the starting point to ideas you could build with Omnichain smart contracts for the ongoing hackathon. So we're coming up on time now, so I guess I will pass it to you, Jonathan, to kind of close it off.
Sure. I think maybe we have time for one last quick question. Is there anything burning from your side, Brandon? If not, we can wrap up here as well.
Yeah, I think we had a few questions, but kind of ended up touching on all of them. So tooling,
Okay.
we see maybe even just base indexing, data availability, and then also tooling like Omnichain smart contracts that let you actually add logic to Bitcoin is super important progression for the ecosystem. And then just went over ideas. And I think the general sentiment I'm gathering from all of you for kind of investment and opportunity wise is there's a lot of low-hanging fruit right now to build for the Bitcoin ecosystem. It is the largest, by and large, in liquidity and holders. So if you can activate those ecosystems and users who have kind of been dormant to date, especially before the past 6 months with the kind of ordinals uptick, you can have access to a lot of users and a lot of people who kind of see Web3 from the sidelines, but aren't actually able to use their Bitcoin or have any notion of how to do so. So, ton of opportunity. And I guess last remark for me is, yeah, thank you to all the speakers today. And really looking forward to seeing what the ecosystem builds for the hackathon.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are great closing remarks, and thank you as well to the speakers for taking the time. Regarding the hack, you heard about the big opportunities with Bitcoin, and I would look at this hack as a potential gateway to build a startup and what could be the next Bitcoin killer app. This is a really untapped an important part of the crypto ecosystem, and it could help open a lot of doors for us to help support your startup within the Zeta ecosystem, and we can connect you with other thought leaders in the space, like the folks that joined today. So yeah, keep collaborating and getting support in the Dev General Discord channels, and then check out the Zeta docs, of course. And Dennis's team is continuing to build new tutorials and examples and videos and stuff. And then for the broader community, look out for updates on next steps for Zeta Labs in the next couple of weeks on the broader ecosystem side. I think we can close it there. Thank you, speakers and Zeta contributors, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.